Hi, welcome back to Tiny Classrooms Live.
Hi, the doctor here, Don Zalou in Taos, New Mexico.
And I'm Artie Nathan, the HR guy here in the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And our topic today is the implications of working without an office.
That's a big set of implications, isn't it, Artie? You know, and I guess in early 2020, the world began, what's undoubtedly the largest work from home experiment in history. Right?
That's right. And so it's probably best if leaders understand what impact that working from home has on productivity and creativity and their own personal style.
That's right. That's right. You know, and all the information that we see and we're gathering up, and some of which we're giving to all of you in these live recordings, it has its limitations. Much of it shows results for only a relatively short period of time, and so that's one of the challenges here. Is that we've got good data for a short period of time, and
that's right. Now, what we're studying here is the impact and effects of change. That's really what this is. And just because it's change as it relates to working from home or in the office, it's still change. And the way you manage change as a leader is very important. And so apply those things that you've known to use well in the past to this, because there is an impact, but it doesn't have to be long-term.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. It's kind of a surprise. What we're discovering is that historically, the experiments that have been done regarding remote working, the productivity almost always fell, following any kind of attempt at a large scale change. And what's happening here, interestingly enough, is as people sort of got used to it, they got their feet firmly in the stirrups, they adjusted, the productivity actually is going up. It's very, very interesting.
Because they adjusted to it more quickly than anybody expected. And employees tend to do that when faced with change. So don't fear this change. I think you want to get into it. I think you're finding that employees are starting to find the right balance between work and home life. And that's very important.
Yeah. This whole thing of virtual meetings, actually just about every meeting you're having these days is virtual, isn't it? And people have adjusted. They've sort of raised their Zoom confidence up to the next level. They're getting good at it and kind of liking it, right?
When you're just working in the office, you've done it so much that you sort of know what you're doing and you just follow the same routines. But because it's Zoom, because it's different, I think people are having to study what they're going to do. They have to prepare more. And I think they're more focused on not wasting time. And so I think meetings are becoming more productive.
Absolutely. And sort of the last big challenge is that how do people turn work off when they're working at home? How have they adapted to control their work time and their private life time to get that balance?
Well, balance is not an easy thing, whether you are in this pandemic time or normal times.
Very true.
A good leader watches his or her employees and makes sure that they do have some balance, because they ask them the right questions, they listen to their answers, they pay attention to them and their stress levels and their productivity levels. And I think it's the same now. So there's no reason not to apply what you know to these changed circumstances.
And following up on what you just said, I mean, since this whole all virtual work thing has been pushed upon us, interestingly enough, employee stress, negative emotions, task-related conflict, all this stuff has been steadily falling, and it's down to at least 10%, which was a much higher percentage previously. And employees have experienced 10% of improvement in self-efficiency and in their capacity to pay attention. It's all very interesting data. Again, it's a very short period of time, but it's very positive data for the future.
And interestingly, it's working now because people had to do it.
Exactly.
Before it was optional, and should we or shouldn't we, and could we or can't we? Because they had to do it, people adapt and leaders adapt. And so just go with this. Don't worry that it's not going to work. Find ways to make it work.
Exactly. And, don't worry about what you could lose. If you don't pay attention, right? If you're not paying attention, if you're not managing the situation, if you're not addressing morale and effective communication and so on, there's things you could lose. But it looks like most organizations are paying attention to that, taking it seriously, as you just said. And there's very little sign that we're losing anything. There's an awful lot of upside and gain that's going on.
Now, there's probably some things that are more vexing than not, like onboarding, like acclimating people, like creating relationships. But you can do a lot with Zoom. I'm sure you've seen that already. And bringing more employees together this way might be easier than bringing people together the old-fashioned way.
Well, it's very interesting. Maybe in a closing comment, you and I have in our professional firm, we have relationships with people all over the world. And once a week, we have a conversation on Zoom with people in South Asia and Europe and all over North America. And it's fostering better friendship, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And even though we may not fly as much as before, that's not a bad thing.
No,
but I think because we're not flying, we can get together more. And that is a good thing.
It's a very good thing. So that's it for today. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for following us on Tiny Classroom Training Live. And as Artie and I have said multiple times, if you have something you want to talk about or hear us address, or you have comments, please get a hold of us and let us know.
Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.